I'm the most normal guy ever. There are people who are better, faster, smarter, cooler, more talented than me, but I'm all about finding a niche and then just, hammering it right there.
So what is your niche?
I'm Michigan's family funny man.
It's a mess in this attic. Lot going on, but there ain't no need to panic. Come on up and join, we getting wild, getting manic. Spitting truth for all you fanatics. Every week got something new to say. Ain't no filter, this shit coming straight from the brain. It's coming straight from the brain. Yeah, it's coming straight from the brain.
Well, I love the fact that he's putting a lot of energy into kids too with the school. So that's what drew me to you. Of course, I recognize the TACEY name. That's a mid-Michigan staple of a name.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Do you know the history of that name a little bit? Like, where does that all come from? Are you related to all of them, or is there separate families, or what is that?
Not only do I know the entire story, but I know a few crazy wrinkles that nobody else does. In the 15 and 1600s, it was actually, the name was Tessier, Tessier, Tessier.
Okay.
And they lived in the middle south of France. Tessier means weavers. So we were the town weavers.
That's a big job pre-industrial revolution.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, if you wanted clothes, you had to come see my family. 1600s, Urbain Tessier moved from France to North America to what is now Montreal. Okay. But it wasn't Montreal then. It was just forest. So then my family lived in what is now Montreal for many, many generations. And then in the 1800s, one of the TACEYs, Prosper Tessier, moved to what is now Sarnia, which is it's in Canada. It's near Port Huron.
Yep.
Somewhere around there. And he was so poor that he stole a horse, killed it, and fed it to his family. But he became an outlaw. So he illegally crossed the border. He came to what is now Quanakasi. And then he slowly, over the next few years, legally moved his whole family to the U.S. But in so doing, the government changed his name to TACEY, Tacey. And from that one TACEY, Prosper TACEY, come all the TACEYs. Two cool things. We unexpectedly had a fourth and final child 4 years ago, and I named him Prosper TACEY.
That's awesome. You got to. That's awesome.
To honor the original TACEY. And here's the other big crazy kicker. My wife is from France, and it turns out that the Tessiers are from the next village over from where my wife and her family have lived for 500 years. So at some point in the generations, I know for a fact, Tessier and Laurent, that's my wife's last name, they were friends, business partners, lovers, they enemies, something, but they crossed paths.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's definitely true. You had to kind of dodged a bullet in not finding out that she herself came from the line of Tessiers or something, which I think that happens on occasion. So thank God for that. But then not only that, but there's definitely a history there. The horse situation, it sounds like he was a desperate, hungry guy doing what he had to do to protect his family. And I mean, it's honestly surprising that dating that far back, they would have treated him like that for a horse. I feel like, I mean, I'm an animal guy, but that's surprising for that era,
Right? Yeah. And there's perhaps a little bit of myth to that, but I've talked to people who know those stories, heard them when they were kids, lived to be 100 years old. So, I mean, these stories come from real people that I personally met, and I believe them. And there's some other crazy stories. So there's the original Prosper TACEY, and then there's my son, Prosper TACEY. Mm-hmm. There were 3 other Prosper TACEYs in between. And one of them was kicked in the head by a horse and died around age 30.
Payback, if you will. I mean, sorry, that's a terrible story.
Payback. And then there's kind of another fun twist there. So that happened to that guy, and he just before that he conceived a daughter, but the daughter wasn't even born yet. And my family thought that daughter died when she was a little girl. And I was doing a show, and an old lady came up to me. I was in the middle of nowhere. She comes up to me and she's like, "Joel, I came here just to meet you." And she says, "My name's Eleanor." And then she gave me her last name. I'd have to look it up. It was like Zalada. That was what it was. And she says, "I'm Prosper TACEY's long lost daughter." And I go, "No way." So I told my family, I said, not only is that lady still alive, but she came and met me. She tracked me down. And a bunch of my family, they couldn't believe it, because they like to keep track of all these things. And that's how I found out about this weird family history.
I mean, that's so incredible. It highlights the importance of storytelling, first off, which is a very ancient form of education and wisdom sharing.
Exactly. And I always encourage people, talk to your grandma and grandpa, talk to your aunts and uncles, because once those people pass, you've just lost the connection to 100 years of cool stuff. And so yeah, I don't know about you, if you have a lot of old relatives, or maybe your family's all spread out. I don't know.
I mean, I don't have that sort of historical knowledge, but we have spent a lot of time as an extended family, and there's definitely been an exchange of stories, both the classics that are kind of tribal, if you will, and then the ones that are, maybe inflated fishing stories and things like that. But of course, now we have Facebook, and our ancestors will be able to see what we had for breakfast on a random January morning, but maybe won't know anything about us.
Yeah. Times have definitely changed. So I'm 42. I'm about to turn 43. I don't know. What are you? You're in your mid 30s, maybe.
I'm 36. I'm the same age as your brother Keith. We're old baseball friends. And then he ended up moving up to Gaylord, and I think we ended up playing each other down the road in sort of a Mighty Ducks twist, where we had to go up against our old friend. We did win. I should mention that in case he's listening. But that said, I'm the same age as Keith, and I was going to tell you, I don't know if it's because of your energy or what, but you seem very young. And that's not to say that 43 isn't very young, by the way, but you have a very youthful energy. I'm sure the kids pick up on that.
I mean, I just, I don't know. I don't do anything special there. I'm the most normal guy ever. There are people who are better, faster, smarter, cooler, more talented than me, but I'm all about finding a niche and then just, hammering and right there. Finding a cool way to serve people. And and the other thing is I when you're excited about something, age kind of disappears, like I don't even care if somebody is a singer or an artist or whatever. If they're expressing their thing that they love, age just kind of, people forget about it.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's really well put. So what is your niche? My nickname that I've given myself for 20 years is I'm Michigan's family Funnyman. I love my dream job that I hope comes back. That's my new dream, to have my dream job back. That's
to entertain families. I love providing live entertainment for families. I love the kids laughing and being amazed, and the adults right behind them either being amazed themselves or watching the kids being amazed. But I love creating something that a whole family, all ages, can enjoy.
Yeah.
And now I personally, I still love, and enjoy art and movies and other things that are PG-13 and R-rated, not, for adults.
Of
but
course.
In terms of what I create and my art and what I like to do, I love to provide live entertainment and get that instant reaction in front of families.
Well, such a great, like, moving way to put it. So you really enjoy that face-to-face, which obviously we'll get into has been damaged severely by the current case. Not that you're complaining, but you had to adapt. But it's interesting to hear that you still like the, maybe more adult themed things on the side, but you tend to gravitate and enjoy the most entertaining the families. I honestly think that takes a little more, well, I know it takes a lot more tact, because some of the raunchier punchlines are often low-hanging fruit, if you will. So to be able to connect with the kids as well as the adults and manage all of that, I think is so interesting. I hope you're going to share some of your act at some point today. And if people are listening, go to the show notes, check out in the show notes. You'll see his links. You'll get a great feel for Joel today. And at the end of this, you're going to want to hire him in some capacity to get him coming to and entertain the family. So go check that out. I handle the sales pitch for you, Joel. So then you can just share your inspiration from here on out. So, and with that,
no, I appreciate
continue.
that. And by the way, even though my stuff is all family friendly, I mean, trust me, it gets gross too. I mean, I make fart jokes and booger jokes. I mean, kids aren't above gross stuff. But yeah, if my grandma couldn't hear it, if I wouldn't want my grandma to know about it, I don't share it in front of a family. But like I said, I've done my same brand of goofy humor my entire life. I used to get in trouble constantly in Catholic school growing up. And never once did I ever get invited to a Friday bingo session. If you didn't get in trouble one time all week, you got to go play Friday bingo, which is weird. Why would they let you gamble in Catholic school? I don't know. But
gotta get ready for those beer tents down the road,
right. But I would the nuns, they hated me because they would like ask a question and I'd raise my hand and I would always answer in the form of a joke. So they couldn't be upset with me because I was giving them the answer, right? I was playing by their rules, but I would put a joke in there and the class would crack up. But it wasn't really a distraction because I was never the class clown. I wasn't disruptive. I wasn't insulting the teacher or insulting the kid next to me. I just always had something funny to add into what was going on. And a couple of the nuns liked me, but that's why people say, like, were you the class clown? And I say, I wasn't the class clown. I was never disruptive. I always played by the rules, but I always had something funny to add.
I'm starting to see the parallel. So you were even highbrow as a kid. So even as a class clown, you really were. You're even then at that point you weren't taking the low hanging fruit. You're taking the more intellectual, more positive route. So talk about what your act is, and I'm sure it's changed a lot. But as of today, what are you most commonly doing? What's it looking like at this point in the world of global events that are going on?
Okay, well, yeah, in this environment, it's tough. I'll be honest. I am doing a number of Zoom magic shows. So people, just this past weekend, I did a birthday party for a client in Traverse City.
It's cool.
And what was kind of neat is I did the Zoom show from my studio here, and I shared the Zoom link. So not only did they get to watch it in their house, but they shared it with their friends and family all over the state, all over the Midwest, all over the nation.
That's awesome. Yeah.
There was about 30 people that watched the show. And, so it was all about the birthday girl, Maddie. And, to me, that's a lot of fun. Zoom is a lot of fun. It allows me to create and perform my art. It also does give me instant feedback.
Right.
But it's not, of course, not nearly as fun though as the people right in front of me and kids coming up and you don't know what they're going to do or say, and it creates these fun, unusual situations.
Yeah.
I do have some in-person stuff, but it's very limited. Not only because of legal restrictions, but just because people, aren't comfortable with gathering in big groups right now.
Right.
Schools technically can decide for themselves what they want to do, because they're already in a big group. You know, the schools aren't banned, but 99% of schools out there, they just want to teach and not have anybody get sick, so they don't want to take the chance of bringing in an outside person. So yeah, Zoom shows, the occasional in-person show, and my delivery business. Those three things are basically paying the bills right now, and I'm fortunate enough to even have all those. So
well, we're going to get into the delivery business because I'm interested to hear about that. But before we and we're going to talk more about the magic entertainment part as well, but talk about what your dream job was and still is, and what you hope to get back to. What was it before all this?
You know, it was being a full-time performer. I have my own, I have about a dozen different magic shows with different themes, from Halloween, Christmas, spring, summer, to a series of educational magic shows, teaching financial literacy, anti-bullying, encouraging reading.
Wow, that's so awesome.
And I take these 12 theme magic shows and I perform for libraries, schools, festivals, and special events. And then related but separate to that, I also have an entertainment production company, and I've created a couple really neat things. One of them, I only just retired after doing it for a little over 20 years. I had Michigan's original stilt performing group.
That's a distinction. I can guarantee you're the first stilt pioneer I've had on the show, hands down.
Right. So in 1995, I became a professional magician. I started charging money for shows. I think back then I was charging $20 a show. Wow. And I tried to ride a unicycle and I totally failed. I just couldn't do it. So then I was like, you know, what else can I do that's kind of fun? And I learned to make balloon animals, and I'll demonstrate that.
Please do
today.
Yeah.
And so balloons was a lot of fun. But then if somebody already had a magician, if they already had a balloon artist, you know, what else could I offer them? And that's when it occurred to me, I've never met a real life stilt performer before. But,
that's awesome. You did that.
Look, he's your new best friend, Kirk. We'll give him a cool name. We'll call him Pierre.
Love it.
Because that's all he does.
It goes across all guts, all ages. Anyone will laugh at that for sure.
This is what I'm saying. It's a lot of fun. So I never realized I never met another stilt performer. I said, you know what? I'm going to become a Stillwalker. So I borrowed some of my family friends owned a construction business.
Yeah.
And I borrowed a pair of drywall stilts. And I walked around my parents' house, leaning against the house so I wouldn't fall down. And it was pretty easy. So I raised them up as high as they'd go. They went about 3 feet tall. And I raised them up and I was like, oh, you know, this is good. I said, I'm going to get myself a pair of stilts. So I got a pair of stilts that goes up to 4 feet tall.
And so are those still drywall, intended for drywall, or are they made specifically for entertainment?
So they're drywall stilts are very inexpensive and extremely durable. And stilts that are designed for stilt walkers cost 10 times more, and they're very hard to get because they're all custom made.
Okay.
So most people, basically, most people don't really see stilt walkers because, you know, they're not around a lot.
It's a very rare breed. Very rare breed.
It is rare. But they were strictly stilt, drywall stilts. And then you learn to make a few modifications to make them more comfortable and easier to use. Right. And then, of course, you have somebody sew you a gigantic pair of pants and then different costumes. And my troupe was called the High Five Guys because people always asked us for high fives.
High
my
fives.
troupe, super high five, extra tall high five. But my group became so popular at one point in time, I actually had 5 different Stillwalkers, and we did about 80 events a year. And I'm proud to say that for 20 years, from starting around 1995, for 20 years, every single major event that came to Michigan that wanted a Stillwalker called me. We did the Detroit Super Bowl. We did Major League Baseball All-Star Game. We did the 50th anniversary of the Mackinac Bridge. They had me and 3 of my guys, entertaining on stilts.
I hope they didn't send you up towards. I hope they didn't send you up towards the top. That sounds like a liability nightmare.
You know what's weird? Even though it was the 50th anniversary of the Mackinac Bridge, nobody was allowed to go near the Mackinac Bridge. That could only happen by law on Labor Day. We walked basically up to the bridge, and then they drove us across, and then we continued the parade on the other side.
Hold on a second. Time out. They put you in a car with your stilts?
In a pickup truck.
Okay, you're in the back. All right, facing outward with your feet off the back.
Exactly right. Are you familiar with the Zilwaki Bridge?
I am. The listeners, a lot of whom are from the Saginaw area, are. It is the name is beautiful. It's mystifying. It's got a Native American roots. It's a little bit of a concrete situation. It's nothing too magic.
It's kind of ugly, but yeah, it serves its purpose. They had a festival to celebrate that bridge too, and they called us.
No disrespect to the Zilwaki Bridge, its designers or any of that, or to you for being part of the festival. It's awesome.
Oh no! I mean, I think everybody agrees it's a weird looking bridge and it has a weird story, but it's actually amazing, and it works. It works. But some other neat things: the NHL booked me for my stilt group for the world's biggest hockey game, Red Wings versus Maple Leafs at the Big House.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. So what you were doing, you were kind of walking around in advance. Like what did you do at that event for like the festivities? What was it?
At that event, we're at the main gate. We were the first thing you saw when you came in. It was me and we had all my Stillwalkers there. Half of us were dressed as Red Wings hockey players. The other ones were all Maple Leaf hockey players. And that was actually a really easy job because there were so many people. All we did was stand there and wave, and people took photos with us.
Yeah.
So we didn't even have to do anything. We just stood there. This is all we did for like 10 hours straight. Holding these. We had giant hockey sticks made.
That's all. So I imagine you got out of that. You retired that act out of safety precautions, or that seems like a little bit of a high risk work, right? I imagine.
It is. You're exactly right. And basically, I did it for 20 years. I only fell 3 times in 20 years. But here's what happened. My number 2 Stillwalker, who'd been with me for 15 years, he fell 3 times in 1 month. And one of the times that he fell, he injured his shoulder, and it took him many months to get back to normal.
Yeah.
And that's when he looked at me, he goes, Joel, like, dude, we had so much fun, didn't we? I was like, oh yeah, man. He's like, man, I'm old now. He says, I can't do this anymore.
And
I was like, I said, you know what? I kind of understand what you're saying. And even me, like the last few times I got on stilts to walk like a 2-mile parade, I'm starting to think to myself, I'm like, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this?
I don't know. It's got. If you've only fallen 3 times, knock on wood. You must be very good at it. That's crazy. You've fallen 3 times. Were those at parties? Did you ruin 3 birthday parties, or what? What does it look like when a stilt performer falls down? There has to be some comedy. Well, once you realize the person's okay, you kind of have to have some comedic value to that as well.
So if I ever see a Stillwalker fall, I will laugh so hard. I'll be like, oh, that is hilarious. Because like you said, that's what everybody wants to see, right?
The whole thing is like, yeah, like you're on the edge. Like, is he going to fall or not?
That's right. So that's the hook of the Stillwalker. Oh, that guy looks so cool. I hope he's going to fall. This is going to be so good. You know?
You were going to high school when Billy Madison came out, and this is a family-friendly episode. But Billy Madison, there's a great scene where the Stillwalker falls, and they laugh, and then it turns out he's like hemorrhaging, and it's not so funny if you really look at it from the right perspective.
True, but thankfully at the end of that movie, he turns out he's okay. Remember?
He is. He joins the dance number for sure.
Hey, kids, it's me. I bet you thought that I was dead. But when I fell over, I just broke my leg and got a hemorrhage in my head.
For sure. All right, well, go on.
So I've one time I got done with stilts and I was so tired, because obviously when you're done with stilts, like you're exhausted. And I was out of sight, thankfully. And I went in the process of taking my stilts off. I did it wrong, and I fell into somebody, and so that was one. So maybe that doesn't even really count. Another time, on stilts, you're strapped in very strongly. You're one with the stilt,
right?
And a strap broke. I was walking along, and a strap broke, and there's nothing I could do. I fell. Yeah. I actually landed on top of somebody, but thankfully they were an employee at the place that I was at, and it was kind of a bigger person anyway. So we were
non-event. Fine. Yeah, non-event. Yeah,
exactly. But that one did happen. Everybody could see that one, and honestly, blood was rushing to my head because I was like, "Oh, am I okay?" I was scared. I didn't even notice if anybody saw it. And then the third time, this one, people definitely saw me. And this is, you learn a lot as a Stillwalker. I was done with the gig and I was waving to everybody. Okay, bye guys. Thanks for coming. And I should have just went around the corner, taken my stilts off and walked to my car in the parking lot. But instead I was like, you know what? My car's right there. As a joke for the people, I'll walk to my car. I'll sit on the roof. And then I'll start to take my stilts off. They'll all laugh at that.
Right.
And as I'm walking, waving to everybody, as I'm walking along, I realized simultaneously that I was on a wooden walkway, and it was ever so slightly damp. Like
it's like slimy though.
It didn't. Yeah, exactly. It didn't rain, or else I would never have done it. But for some reason, it was a little bit damp. And as those thoughts went in my head, I basically did the splits on this bridge.
Oh my goodness. I bet you they laughed at that as well.
Oh my gosh. It must have been the funniest sight for these people, because usually as a Stillwalker, you fall like this,
right.
And that's not really that funny. If I saw that, I'd be like, oh, I hope he's okay. But I did the splits and I went straight down like that. And it must have been hilarious. Everybody just kind of froze and they looked at me, and I rolled over and I kind of waved to them.
You're like, I meant to do that. Totally meant to do that.
Pretty much. I made sure I had a big smile so that I didn't look like it was too bad. And I didn't get hurt. I just had a giant bruise on my leg from where my legs bent funny on the stilts.
Yeah.
But yeah, so three times falling is all. Definitely fortunate, but still walking was so much fun. Now I was the original stilt group. Now there's probably 5 stilt groups in Michigan. They're all half my age. I hire them, in fact, because people still call me. So I just hire these guys.
Yeah, you're just like a contractor
walk,
now.
Miles on stilts. Exactly.
Right. So that's only part of your act, and now it's not part of your act. So the remainder of it, so you're kind of giving positive life lessons to an assembly. Let's take an assembly. I know that you do those. So give an idea of what kind of message you might be giving, and give a little sample of what that sounds like and what it looks like.
I don't have anything quite set up to share that, but I'll give you some idea. Mm-hmm. So for example, I might go into school and I do a financial literacy magic show. But the fun name is it's called the Smart Money Magic Show. And actually, the show is actually sponsored by the state of Michigan, Ally Financial, if I can say their name on air. I don't know why.
Of course. Yeah.
So they sponsor the whole situation. I go in with this really fun magic show, do all sorts of amazing magic. And along the way, I teach them financial lessons, like what it means to save, spend, give, invest, what supply and demand means, what the factors of production are. For example, I might say, before you can spend, give, or invest money, you have to earn it. Anybody can earn money. All you have to do is to provide a service or a product. You have to provide a service or sell a product. When you do those, you end up with money.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, if you can really do that, I mean, I think you just found your answer professionally.
And so that's what I do. I weave magic into lessons.
Yeah.
So I take some things. Most of the time, the lessons are, I wouldn't say they're boring, because I actually do like financial literacy, but they're kind of dry for a kid.
Right.
And so I weave those lessons into a fun magic trick or a story with a cool surprise ending. And that way, that's the hook. You get everybody watching. Holy cow, this guy just, made $1,000 appear out of nowhere.
Right.
We're going to listen to whatever else he's got to say.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And
and they remember that too, that payoff will be, they'll remember what that whole message was at that point. I mean, that would be good for adults too, especially with financial literacy.
Oh, you're right. And I've done lesser, but I have done financial literacy for families as well. And it's fun. And that's something that means a lot to me, because I've actually always wanted to encourage people somehow, teach them some financial lessons. I mean, heck, especially these days, if people would have been somehow better prepared for all this, if I could give them some tips, you get the idea.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, so you adapted your business. I think in the pre-interview conversations leading up to today, you mentioned that you started a couple additional businesses. Is that kind of the virtual aspect that you've added, or is there additional business stuff that you added since the pandemic hit us?
So when everything happened, two things started to happen. Is I was like, okay, so obviously group settings are going to be out for some amount of time. So I immediately started to learn about live video over the internet, and Zoom was one of the first apps, of course, everybody started talking about.
All right.
And so I took my live shows, and they all became Zoom shows. And then to fulfill a more immediate need for my community, everything shut down on a Friday. By that Monday, I started a delivery business. And I was able to support the community, either because people were afraid to leave their houses, or maybe they couldn't because of medical reasons. And I was able to serve them doing all sorts of things, grocery shopping, basic necessities.
Right.
So I was able to help the community, but it also helped me pay some bills.
Of course.
Because, I go from being a full-time magician doing 350 live shows a year to down to whatever 10% of that or something. You gotta come up with something.
Yeah.
I can't just sit around the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lesson there too. I mean, Jessica, my wife's an attorney, and of course, this project we both work for ourselves. And to people that are interested in doing that, there's a lot of flexibility with that. There's a lot of freedom that comes with it. But one thing that you do lose is any sort of filter between world events or economic impact and your bottom line, your pocketbook, basically. There's no one paying you a salary regardless of how the company's performing. And so that's kind of the risk that you assume. And that's another reason why you should, if you can, support people that are working for themselves where you can, instead of paying Walmart, because those employees are fine. It's the people that own their own stores that are a little bit more on the hot seat, if you will. Do you agree with that? I didn't want to put words in your mouth, but.
Oh no, you said it. I mean, the way I like to say it is simply, business owners or people who are self-employed, there's no minimum wage for them. You know, you could work for 6 months, and if your business loses money, you don't get paid.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
So when I see somebody who attains great success, you know, I say, go for it. Good job. Because if they weren't successful, you know, they wouldn't have food on their table, because there's no guarantee. But see, that's the funny thing, Kirk, is that right out of college, that was out of college was like 2001.
Yeah.
And then 7 years later was 2008 when the market crashed.
Right.
Right. It turns out all my friends who said, Joel, you're crazy to not have a 9 to 5. You don't have any job certainty, you know? And I was like, well, surprise, nobody has any job certainty, right?
Dude, that's exactly, that was some of the first stuff that got exposed when the pandemic hit. Is like Wayfarer, the big furniture company. You know, they went out of business like the first weekend that was becoming a huge story. And it's because they could no longer get the low cost supply from China and all that stuff. But it really Gap, a company like Gap in Banana Republic, were facing serious trouble right away. And that kind of shows you that, you know, the companies that, I have a friend who told me that you only know who's not wearing swim trunks when the tide goes out, right? And we kind of see that, you know, like some people run their businesses more conservatively, and they were able to withstand this a little more, and that goes for personal finance too. That said, it is a difficult time, you know, and I mean it came out of nowhere. It's such a crazy thing that happened. And talk about your delivery business. What kind of stuff are you delivering, and what, you know, how are you getting that service? You're obviously a service oriented person. It's clear in talking with you.
I've learned so much from this pandemic about me, and it all hasn't been good. Okay. So, but one thing I learned is, you know what? I do love to help people. When I'm providing entertainment, what am I really doing? I'm making people happy for a short period of time.
Right.
I'm entertaining them. But sadly that the only way we can do that now is through Zoom. But I'm realizing, like, what's the next best thing for me anyway? It's helping people. And through my delivery business, I've been able to grocery shop for people who can't get out of their house and they can afford to pay me. Mm-hmm. But I've also been able to grocery shop for people who have no money at all. And I just buy them groceries, and I take them to their house and drop them off. They don't owe me anything. You know, they say thanks. I've given people rides to doctor's appointments. Again, sometimes they can pay, sometimes they can't. I don't care. A person I helped just recently, drove her to the police station so she could get her car out of the impound. She didn't have anybody to help her. And over the phone, you know, I was like, oh, you know, this service costs $10 and blah, blah, blah. But the more I talked to her and learned about what situation she was in, I was like, you know what? I said, don't even worry about paying. You know, I got you here. It's no big deal. And it's kind of funny. One of the ways I kind of run my business is if people can afford to pay, that money goes into a imaginary bucket. And then if I need the money to pay bills, I take that money and I pay bills. But then if I use that money to help other people, I do that too. You know, if I buy them groceries or I do this or that, it seems to have, it's kind of a cool thing that's kind of worked its way out. You know?
I mean, that's really interesting, especially given your commitment to financial responsibility. You paid off your debt before you were 40. Are you a Dave Ramsey kind of follower? Is that kind of your mindset?
Yes, yeah. I am.
Did you do the debt-free scream?
Well, I did the debt-free scream with my wife.
Can you do it here, or is that not allowed?
But we didn't call Dave Ramsey that way, because Dave Ramsey's great, but his rules he sticks so rigidly to his rules, it scares people off sometimes.
Right.
And so, but yeah, I did. I'm proud to say, and it's not bragging because we pinched pennies and made big time sacrifices. I paid off my house when I was 39. And here's the other thing too, though, is that whether you're doing Dave Ramsey's way or any other way, when you're paying off debt and you're trying to be responsible, it's a long road. So it's not get rich quick, it's get rich slow.
And act poor and act very poor the whole time. You know, I mean, because of the sacrifices. I don't mean that in a negative way. It's like you're not going to be living high on the hog. That's the sacrifice.
Yeah, exactly right. We, from the minute we said, "Oh, we're going to stick to Dave Ramsey," it took us 7 years to pay off my house. Okay, so this isn't, it's not like it's magic like my other job. You have this plan, and every day you have to stick to it. And again, lots of ups and downs, but we achieved our goals after 7 years. But it's really simple, and it all starts with a budget. Anybody can do it. The step one, make a budget. There you go.
Just to see where you're at, the current state of things, first and foremost.
Exactly. You make a budget. Two things will happen. You're going to be shocked at the amount of money you're wasting, and you're going to be surprised at the money you have. Now, I'm not saying you're going to realize you're a millionaire. That's not going to happen. But you're going to be like, wow, I make enough money to live, but for some reason I'm wasting all this money here. And you probably can't do a lot about the debt right away, but chances are any given person is wasting a lot more money than they realize.
Give me a synopsis, if you will, about what your kind of top 3 tips, or what would you recommend to people that are trying to get debt free or trying to really get a grasp on that? I mean, myself included. What would you advise me to say, the top 3 or 4 or 5, whatever the key things are to make sure I do?
So number one, I already said it, which is make a budget.
Yeah.
And all that is you write the amount of money you make a month, and then you write all your expenses a month, and that's it. That's all a budget is. Step 2, and this is part of the Dave Ramsey plan, is to save $1,000. That's an emergency fund, because it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, you're always going to have something's going to happen. Your fridge is going to break. Your car alternator is going to go out.
Right.
And if you're trying to stick to a plan and all of a sudden you got to spend $800, it's going to throw you off.
Of course.
So that's the second thing. So you want to save $1,000. Now, it might not be easy. It might take you a month or 2 months, but save that money because something's going to happen. It always does.
Yeah. You keep that in cash format, or, I mean, did you put that in a bank, or how do you ensure that a lot of people are going to be in this position to begin with because of discipline issues. And so how do you really ensure that you don't dip into that $1,000 rainy day or emergency fund, if you will?
Well, you know what? That's the third tip, is discipline. It doesn't matter what you do with it, as long as you can spend it instantly. Because like I said, what happens if your, alternator in your car breaks, and I don't even know what that costs, $300 maybe, parts and labor. I don't know. But have that money somewhere in your house or have it in a bank that you can write a check. It doesn't even matter where it is, but in your mind, that it's $1,000 only for emergencies.
Okay.
Not to buy, if the lotto hits $1 billion and you want to buy tickets, that's not an emergency. If your friend is like, oh, hey, there's this concert. Well, I guess the concert wouldn't happen again until, 2022 or something. But if there's this big thing, that's not an emergency. Don't do it. And then the third thing is discipline. I mean, and you are right that people, not every time, but oftentimes, they wouldn't be in the position they are in if they had the discipline.
Right.
But if somebody is trying to get out of debt, or they're trying to improve their finances, there's probably a good reason for that.
Right.
They probably made a mistake, and nothing wrong with making mistakes, by the way. I still make financial mistakes and other mistakes, but you learn from them. You try not to do them again. Yeah. Discipline, that's going to be tricky for some people because, or for a lot of people, because everybody was raised differently.
Yeah.
Maybe you had more money, or maybe your parents taught you that credit cards are, easy to manage and a smart thing to do.
Right.
But yeah, those three things, it will take some time, and it's not easy. But the whole idea behind improving your finances is simply to live beneath your means, right? Like you said, live like you're poor. That basically.
Right. Right. I mean, it actually becomes more fun. I mean, I was a more materialistic person when I was making a lot of money independently. And now that I'm not making as much money and it's a little more scarce, I feel less, I still feel better about it, I guess. It's like the wasting of money has this is not coming from an accusatory standpoint, anybody. I was a materialistic person. I still am to some degree, so I'm never coming at you from a place of anything but like experience myself. And I feel better now that we're buying stuff from the thrift stores, and all of my audio equipment, for the most part, I got on Facebook Marketplace, and
nice.
It's better for the environment, and it's just, I don't know, the spending just does something to your brain. It's not good. It catches up, even if you're the richest person in the world.
Yeah. And that's the good and bad of America. We are a materialistic society. When you think of what does success mean to you, most people think, oh, they're rich, they got a big house, right. They got a big fancy car.
Yeah. What does it look like to you, though?
Success to me has nothing to do with money at all.
Yeah.
To me, success starts with your own household, first and foremost. Now that doesn't mean somebody has to have a family, but if you do have a family,
right?
Do you have a decent relationship with your kids or your spouse? Success in the household is far more important. And let's face it, we all know on the news and other places, there's these people who are all these successful, this and that, but then you find out that they were never happy,
right?
And they got into other things they shouldn't have, because they were never really even happy.
Right.
And having a little bit of happiness in your life and staying somewhat balanced, to me, I'd rather have that than $1 million. I also want the $1 million. Like, that's my goal.
Of course.
To save up $1 million.
Right. Well, I mean, to be honest, though, it's funny because this is how we got back into this conversation about the financial responsibility part, is that you're also charitable, though. You're charitable with your energy and your time, and with the delivery service. Sometimes you make the call that it's not worth charging this person. And sometimes people believe in their mind that fiscal conservatism also is not about the community and things like that, because of the political landscape and how that's been kind of sensationalized. Whereas the reality is you can be both. You can be interested in the bottom line and also still be caring. And sometimes to do good is to do well at the same time, right?
Yeah, I agree 100%. Even in my financial literacy magic shows, I said it fast before, but I teach kids how to spend, save, give, and invest. I want kids, I want to teach them to give. And by the way, that doesn't even have to be any money at all. You can keep all your money for yourself,
your time or whatever.
But again,
yeah,
exactly like me. Maybe you're giving people rides around town. Maybe you're giving somebody an encouraging word. Maybe you're giving support to a local business on Facebook, by spreading their posts, or say something good about them, or defending them when somebody says something bad.
Right.
There's a lot of ways you can give back, and it doesn't have to do it all with money.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for walking the walk. And that's you're an overall an inspiring person. I'm not surprised. You're from mid-Michigan. We have a high concentration of inspiring folks from there. I'm joking. I think it's the same concentration as anywhere in the world, but I do happen to know a lot of TACEYs, and there have always been good, positive folks. You are no exception. In fact, you're a great example. Let's get into your act a little bit. I could talk to you for all day about all sorts of topics and lessons, and I think you could teach me as well. but in the interest of time,
Sure.
let's get. Hey, I got to tell you, you kind of look a little bit like Rand Paul. Do you ever hear that?
Rand Paul, boy, you know, he is an interesting guy, isn't it?
I know we don't have to wait. We don't even have to wade into him other than just there's something.
Oh, I'm just gonna say he's an interesting guy, but thank you.
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't.
He's a distinguished looking fellow, and I'm gonna take that as a compliment, Kurt.
It's a compliment. It's a compliment for sure, 100%. You should take it as that for sure. All right, hit us with it, Joel.
So magic is my first love. I've been doing magic ever since I was a kid, and I love the reaction. It's fun. So you know, I say it's my first love, but no, I think making people laugh, I think, is my first love. Because like I told you, that's what I did ever since I was a little kid.
Right.
But magic is right there with it. Hey, Kirk, let's have you perform a spelling miracle for your watchers.
Wonderful.
And your listeners. I told you a little bit about me in school growing up. I was a pretty decent student. How about you? Were you a good speller?
I was a good speller. Yeah. I actually was a representative of my school in 6th grade for the county-wide spelling bee, which in small time Essexville, that's a big deal, at least in my little head. And we get there. On the way there, the teacher was sharing the previous year's student who screwed up and got arithmetic wrong in the first round, and his dreams were dashed of county glory. We were kind of like, oh, how could he do that? Who would get arithmetic wrong? And I get up there, very first word I get was arithmetic, and I got it wrong as well. It was humiliating. Not even humiliating. I was disappointed. I wanted to win that thing, you know? I should have learned from the year's previous student, right?
Yeah, right. Did you ever redeem yourself?
No, I quit at that point. I don't know. I don't remember another spelling bee opportunity. Maybe I was just no longer invited into the spelling club after that performance, you know?
But I'm going to give you a chance to redeem yourself, Kirk, with your spelling, to show off your spelling education.
Okay.
We started out with the word miracle.
Yeah.
And now we're going to mix up these letters.
Okay.
So neither you nor I knows the order that they're in. But here's the thing. Wherever you tell me to put them, whatever number, that's exactly where I'm going to put the letter back.
Okay.
For example, Kirk, 1 through 7. Where should I put this letter?
4.
Let's see here. M-I-R-A goes in the 4th spot. Where's our next one?
1.
1. Booyah. You seem very about this.
It's all about acting confident. 2.
2. There it goes. What about our next one?
5.
5 goes right there.
3.
3. Just a couple more to go.
6 and 7. I'm finishing in order. I like that. 6, then 7.
6 and 7. We started out with the word miracle. We mixed up the letters. You and you alone decided where to put them. It's a miracle.
You're not gonna. How did that happen? I mean, you can't tell your trick. You can't tell your trick, but my goodness.
I cannot tell my tricks. That's part of the cool thing about being a magician. You've redeemed yourself. You know what? I'm proclaiming you the spelling bee winner of 2020 because you know what? They probably didn't even hold one in Essexville.
That's true. I finally, all you suckers that said I couldn't make it. You know what? Who's doing the arithmetic now? Oh, no, it's bad smack talk. I'm not a good smack talker. Well, I feel like you have to go serve some people. It sounds like you have to go do some deliveries. You have to talk to some folks. Joel, I thank you so much for coming on the show. You were a fantastic guest, a good dude. Any outgoing message for the people listening and watching?
You know, Kirk, I want to let your listeners know to keep giving their very best, to don't give up and help anybody in their community that they can, either with their time, their talents, or their treasures. Kirk, this was so much fun. I really appreciate you having me on your awesome podcast.
Thank you so much, dude. Enjoy the rest of your day, man. Thanks so much. Keep it rolling.